If you're thinking about starting an Airbnb business in 2023, in this video, we're going to uncover the unfiltered truths about what that might look like, some of the challenges you might face, and how to ultimately succeed. We're going to dive into specific topics that will affect you as an investor, such as higher interest rates, changing travel trends, and entitled guests. As a seven-figure host myself, I'm going to uncover some of the hidden challenges that you will encounter, and then also explain some of the specific things that you can do to ultimately be successful, not just today, but long term. First, let's talk about some of the travel trends we're seeing. We are seeing an increased year-over-year travel, especially as it compares to pre-COVID around 2019. However, we are seeing an increased supply in many of the larger vacation markets. So although travel demand is up, supply is also up as well, which is suppressing some daily rates and occupancy in certain markets. The properties that are doing really well right now are either unique stays, and if you guys pay any attention to Airbnb or their advertisements online or around different towns like San Francisco, they are very focused on selling the unique experiences that you get on Airbnb. So, how to create a unique experience? Do some market research. What are the top properties currently providing guests? You need to focus on design. If you guys need help with design, I highly recommend using Summer-led designs, but more importantly, what amenities you're providing guests and where you're located within that market. In many markets, it's important to be either walking distance or a short drive away from whatever the main attraction is, and then also creating an experience that feels like a vacation from the vacation. So in Airbnb, you'll see filters like amazing pools or amazing backyard, outdoor kitchen. Those types of features are going to be really critical to help you stand out and get the initial click and ultimately get more dollars per night per reservation. So although supply is going up in most markets, just remember that we want to compete on value and compete on experience, because ultimately if you compete on price, it's going to be a race to the bottom. And I am a true believer, and I'm seeing this with my own properties, the properties that we have a better experience for guests and go all out with amenities, we're actually seeing a higher than ever daily rate being booked. So make sure to focus on that, and you guys can do quite well long term. Let's touch on interest rates next, because they are not at all-time highs, but they are at an incredible rate higher compared to what they were in 2021 or early 2022. Don't get me wrong, a 7 or an 8% interest rate on a mortgage, a home loan, is definitely higher than what we're used to seeing. However, if you go back 20 or 30 years ago, a 7% mortgage interest rate would look very attractive. There have been points in time where they have been well above 10%. So with that being said, don't let that discourage you and immediately assume that rates are too expensive in order to have a profitable real estate investment. And the comment I get all too often is, well, rates are so high, I'm going to wait till they come down. The problem with this is, just a couple short years ago, we had record low rates. People were getting mortgages in the 2s or the 3s. And when that happens, the price of real estate starts skyrocketing up because it's cheaper to borrow debt in order to buy assets. So what happens then is you're getting in bidding wars with people. I remember pulling up to houses in Fort Lauderdale, Florida when we were looking to acquire some new properties in 2021, and there would be 30 to 50 cars pulled up and 50 to 60 offers within a 24-hour period for one property. So although the interest rate was way lower, like 3%, you ended up paying $100,000 over asking price, waiving appraisals, waiving contingencies on inspection, just to secure that property. So debt was cheaper, but there were very few and far between like actual good deals to get. Now today, although interest rates are higher and prices are actually starting to come down a little bit or remain stagnant in a lot of markets, there is far less competition. So we're actually getting properties, and myself included and a lot of my students at BNB Investor Academy, we're getting properties under contract under asking price and under appraised value. And there's far more negotiating power as well in terms of getting the seller to actually pay to buy down our interest rate or pay for the majority, if not all of our closing costs. So it's less money out of pocket and you're getting a better deal. Interest rate may be higher, but just remember, if interest rates go up 6 or 12 months from now, you're going to look back and be glad you locked in a 7 or 7.5% interest rate. And on the flip side of that, If rates go down in 6 to 12 months or 3 years, whatever it is, you can always refinance at the lower rate and bring down your monthly payment. Now, one of the things that is honestly a downfall or a con about running a short-term rental business and operating on a site like Airbnb is there are a lot of bad guests out there. And not necessarily that guests have ill intentions, but people seem incredibly entitled nowadays, even more so than when I started running Airbnbs 3.5 years ago. And this is more so common on some of my properties where we have a cheaper nightly rate or when we offer discounts to fill midweek gaps for our nicer properties. I've noticed it's not always the case, but the majority of the time, the trend seems to be if somebody or a group pays $1,000 a night or $1,500 a night, I rarely hear from them unless there is a major issue, and they usually leave me a 5-star review, no questions asked. However, if that same property is renting out at $450 a night per se, midweek in the off season, we typically get guests that are probably stretching their budget just for the $450, and then they show up and it seems like they're on their hands and their knees looking for something to complain about, to either get a refund, or then they ultimately don't leave you a 5-star review across the board. This just goes to prove my earlier point even more so, that I would focus on selling the experience and focusing on nicer properties where you can stand out and ultimately charge a premium rate because you are going to get premium guests. Now, before we dive into how you can ultimately be hyper successful on Airbnb, let me talk to you guys a little bit more about BNB Investor Academy. BNB Investor Academy is a very hands-on and in-depth coaching and mentorship program that I founded several years ago, and we have taught over 1,000 students from across the world. This program teaches everything you need to know about short-term rentals from the very beginning to the very end. So everything from finding what markets are profitable, how to evaluate them, how to evaluate specific properties, covers all the different strategies for buy and hold, arbitrage, co-hosting, and professional management, ultimately how to design your property, furnish, stand them up, and then manage them like a professional to maximize the cash flow from each property. So if you guys want more information on that and what's all included and how me and my team work with you day in and day out to be successful, just click on the link in the description below or head to bnbinvestoracademy.com. Photos and marketing are still really bad across the board. Honestly, guys, if you want to be successful on Airbnb, you have to do the basics really well and then do some of the more intricate management stuff great later down the road. But where most people fail is by taking poor photography. Do not just take photos with your cell phone, although they may appear to be decent. They simply do not compare with professional photography and professional editing. It usually costs a few $100s to photograph a house. It's worth it, trust me. Secondly, the marketing on your splash page on Airbnb is critical, along with your pricing and other things that guests view before ultimately deciding your place is right for them. The first photo needs to be the #1 photo or a collage of photos that tell the story about your property or the main attraction of why they should click to want to learn more about it. I see too many professional property management companies do an awful job at just having a picture of the driveway in the front of the house, and then when you click on the listing, you get to 5 photos at different angles of the front of the house. The first 5 photos on your splash page need to be a story for your traveler. If they did not have the capability to look at any other photo or read a description, they only had 5 photos to book your property, which 5 photos would you place there? That ultimately is going to get them interested enough to read the description and then click see all photos and see everything that your house has to offer and all the different spaces that are included. On top of that, you need to ensure that you're staying up to date with all the new features that Airbnb adds. They oftentimes add more amenities, and sometimes if you're using a property management software, some of the normal amenities that you already had checked off become unchecked. I don't know why that is, but you need to stay on top of it, because if you offer a hot tub, a game room, an outdoor kitchen or TV, whatever it is, if that becomes unchecked and it's a filter that a guest is using, you're going to appear lower and lower on the search results. So if you want to be a good operator and a manager, you need to have great photos and you need to stay on top of your listing. As mentioned earlier in this video, the thing that will help you be the most successful in setting up a property for the potential to have extreme levels of cash flow, like $5,000 or $10,000 plus per month in net cash flow, is going to be design and amenities. This all goes back to the market research. You should know before acquiring a property in that specific market you're in, where within that market people are wanting to rent, what neighborhood, what zip code, and then ultimately, what do the top properties provide in that market? You need to know, do people need a hot tub when they book? Is it South Florida or Phoenix, Arizona, where they want a pool or they want a heated pool specifically? You have to understand what amenities are worth having and paying for that will have a direct ROI correlated with them. Design is critical. I mentioned Summerled Designs. If you guys do not follow them on Instagram or their website, highly encourage you to do so. It's SOMERLED Designs. They design vacation rentals, specifically vacation rentals from coast to coast. And design is really important because design is what is going to be showcased in your photography. And it's not just a normal design that we're after. We don't want to just create a pretty house with cohesive colors. We want to embrace the market that we're in, why are people visiting, and then create themed spaces or rooms so that each photo pops and draws you in closer and closer to making that reservation. And on top of that, Airbnb is all in on promoting unique stays. All their marketing has been based on that recently, especially if you've seen it on television or on YouTube TV. Every single thing seems to be like a cave category or an amazing pools category or like a desert category, amazing views category. So what I would focus on when acquiring a property, or if you already have a property and you want to make some adjustments, figure out what things or what categories are on Airbnb that people are constantly searching for or have the best performing properties, and then figure out what you can get or apply to your specific property that will help you appear in those categories and stand out. Once you have an amazing property with great design, awesome amenities, you've knocked it out of the park, it will only do well if you have really good management. Because if you don't have good management, you will fail to get bookings, and then you'll fail to get consistent 5-star reviews, and you will start to lose higher placement in Airbnb search, and then you get less impressions, you get less clicks, less bookings, less money in your pocket. I always encourage people to self-manage. That's what we teach in BNB Investor Academy. We teach you how to set up all of the systems. You need a property management software to automate the day-to-day communication between guests and all your different listings across Vrbo, Airbnb, direct booking. And then we also need to use dynamic pricing software such as Pricelabs or Wheelhouse. This will help you not just set a base rate flat across the year at $300 per night. The demand is different every single day. So what Pricelabs and Wheelhouse do is they look at information or data within the market based on your customizations and your specific property and what your base rates are, and then it will adjust up or down based on the day, helping you get more reservations and at a higher overall revenue per month. Now, if you don't feel like you have the right amount of time to self-manage or you just have no interest in it, then you need to outsource to a good property management company. Don't just go for the big box PMs, because honestly, you're just going to get lost in the numbers there and the property will probably have subpar performance. What I would recommend is working with Home Team Vacation Rentals. This is actually a company that I was a co-founder of, and I help run the day-to-day operations. At Home Team, we're one of the fastest growing PMs in the country. Within the first 10 months, we have scaled to over 230 properties under management, and we apply the same principles that I do for my own properties myself. And our sole goal is to provide an amazing experience to guests, but more importantly, returning the highest possible revenue and ROI to each homeowner that we work with. So if you are interviewing property management companies, they have to use those certain tools that I talked about earlier and also have good marketing and a direct booking strategy. If they don't use those tools, run and find someone else to manage your property. Overall, I still believe short-term rentals provide an incredible abundance of opportunity for investors out there, new and experienced, to grow their own portfolio and build substantial monthly cash flow. But you have to do the research, you have to implement the right design and strategy, and then you have to have the appropriate ongoing management. Again, if you guys want to learn more about BNB Investor Academy, just check out the description below or hit the website. And make sure, if you're not already subscribed to this channel and you guys have interest in real estate, short-term rentals, and overall financial freedom, make sure to give a like and a subscribe below. Appreciate you guys watching.